So have you heard of Tenacity Trading? If you've been on social media recently, you probably heard a few words about it, but it's been catching a lot of buzz on social media lately just because one, it has no evaluation, no daily loss limit, and no consistency rules. And also it guarantees payouts. So it's been catching the eyes on social media lately. However, I spent 4 hours alone yesterday trying to figure it out, and it's safe to say that this firm is confusing as fuck. I'll get into the reasonings why throughout this video, and we'll talk a little bit more about the firm and give you a general idea of what it's about. So, Tenacity Trading, this is their website here. The reason why it's been catching a lot of attention on social media is mainly because, like I said earlier, no evaluation, they claim no consistency rules, and also 100% payout approval is what they claim. Now, I should probably start this video by saying this. I am not affiliated in any way, and this is not a negative review bash in the company. This is just my personal opinion on the company and me sharing my thoughts and concerns. Off the rip, I can say that this website does not have enough information. In the home landing page, websites definitely need some work. Especially when you are bringing into a new model or a new way of kind of trading props into the industry, you need to have a lot more information on it. It took me having to scour the FAQs just to figure out what this is about. But the best way to kind of look at Tenacity Trading is it's not a prop firm. It's a trading tournament. And if you kind of look at it, you look at like competitive pricing here, you instantly think, okay, wait, am I paying for eval? What am I paying for here? These are entry fees that you're paying for. Entry fees to get into a competition. My review of the website is going to stop here because the information is kind of scarce on the website. It's a very interesting approach. We're going to talk about like how the payouts work and all of this stuff. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the diagrams. So why do I say it's confusing as fuck? Well, for one reason, they don't really do a really good job of explaining what the model is or like how the business model works. Basically, 80% of all account fees go into a competition entry fund, and the fund needs a minimum of 40,000 to get started. So this is what they mean by this, okay? This is what Tenacity Trading really is. So you seen that there was two options here. You seen that there was $200 and then there was $100. These are entry fees, okay? Now, of course, each one of them has their own like conditions and like stipulations. For example, this one may have a maximum trailing drawdown of 750, while this one may have a maximum trailing drawdown of 2000. So each of them are going to have certain factors that either enable, give you an advantage or give you a disadvantage when looking to get a payout. Now, when you pay these entry fees, right? These entry fees then go into a prize pool of 40,000. You need to not look at it as a prop firm model because it really isn't a prop firm. It's more of a trading competition. So when they talk about these competition accounts are direct to sim funded, basically you're just put on 50K demo accounts. You're put on 50K demo accounts and essentially you're entered into a trading competition with these 50K demo accounts. Now, this is why I say it's really confusing as fuck, because there's a few questions that are left unanswered unless you go scouring the FAQ section. And one of the biggest question is like, okay, cool. When can I take a payout, right? So how it works is essentially in order to take a payout, you need a minimum of 5 trading days of a profit of at least $50. So you need a $50 profit. You need 5 trading days with a $50 profit minimum. Okay, cool. So once you have these 5 trading days, that's when you become eligible to request a payout. We'll talk about like how this works in a section because it's not like you just request a payout from their reserves. It's more like you request a payout from the prize pool. There's, opting out early, and then there's equilibrium. It's all this confusing shit, but don't worry, I'll explain it in this video. The next question I got is, okay, cool. If the prize pool is 40,000, right? How are the winners determined? How does it determine if someone gets more money than someone else? Well, I figured out by using this example. Let's say we have 2 people. We have Jimmy. Oh my God, Jimmy eyes is fucked. And then we have Stan. Stan's a little Chad, so he has a triangle head. So Jimmy has a 50K eval. He has 1. They both have 150K eval. And Jimmy has a profit or an account balance of 50,650. Now Stan, because Stan's a Chad, he has an account balance of 54,000. So how does it determine who gets paid out first and how much they're basically owed of this large prize pool? Well, it gets determined by the amount of profits that they have in the account. So if you're Jimmy in this sense, right, you can get paid out $650, or I should say 90%, sorry, 90% of $650. We'll go over 90% in a second. However, if you're staying here, out of this 40,000, if your sim funded account has a profit of 54,000, you can get paid out 4,000. Now, this is my understanding of it from looking at their web and looking at a few YouTube videos. I could be confused, but I think this is kind of along the lines. Hopefully, I would like to see them come out with a little bit more of a clearer documentation. And again, this isn't a negative review. Hopefully, they use this to better the model or better the company. But there is a lot of questions that I have here. But for example, that's how like the winners are ranked and determined and who gets how much out of this prize pool and stuff like that. It's basically how much profit you have in your direct sim funded. We're just gonna call it your 50K demo. Now, how does the split actually work? Well, to understand how the split actually works, I'm gonna need to take this and I'm gonna need to clip you right here. Perfect. Let's just. Okay, cool. That should work. All right. Hopefully you can hear me well. The audio is shit. I'm sorry. To understand how the split works, we need to understand the idea that they have in mind. Okay? So the idea that they have in mind is that you pay $200 as the entry fee, or $100, right? Now remember, out of this entry fee, 20% goes to Tenacity. We'll just, draw a supposed arrow and Tenacity. So 20% goes to Tenacity. The other 80% goes into the prize pool, right? So after you pay your entry fee, you get a $50,000 sim account. And then once the prize pool hits this beautiful number of 40,000, that's when the competition starts. So this poses a new question that I have is what happens if the prize pool never reaches 40,000 and you paid your entry fee in advance? Are you just sitting there and waiting? Like what's going on there? So once it starts, you get your 50K and you start trading it. And if you hit 5 days of profit, you get to a fork in the road, which means you get to make a choice. Now, this is how the split is determined. So now you have two choices you can make from what I see. A, or path A, is that you can opt out early and you can take your cash now. And we'll go over what opting out early means. So let me write that over there. The next is you can stay in and you can ride it to equilibrium. And equilibrium, we are definitely going to have to discuss what equilibrium even is as well too. So these are terms that we're going to go over in a second. You can request a payout anytime if you have 5 profitable days over $50, and you can get 90% of your profits if you choose to opt out early, and you can choose to get this path. For example, if you made $1,200, you can request a payout for $1,080 or $1,080, and then that's it. You're done. You don't get the beautiful option of a live account. Womp womp. Now, let's say you decide to stay in and ride it to equilibrium, right? So first, let's go over these terms. Let's go over what opting out and equilibrium is. First, in order to define opt out, we need to define what equilibrium is. The prize pool is 40,000. Equilibrium is a state that is reached when the total profits amongst the traders in the competition reaches $40,000 or higher. So let's say, for example, we have, I don't know, let me erase this. Let's say, for example, we have 10 traders. Or sorry, let's say, for example, we have a few traders. We have this trader, this trader, this trader, this trader, this trader, this trader, right? And let's say this trader has a profits of 1K, this one has profits of 10K, this one has profits of 9K. This one has profits of 2K. This one has profits of 8K. And then this one has profits of 10K. So 20, 30, 40. So overall, their combined profits is 40,000. This is when equilibrium is reached. And when equilibrium is reached, what happens is the competition pauses because it doesn't have any more funds in reserve to pay out traders. Now, there is potentially, and this is a new company, so we don't know too much about it yet, but there is potentially scenarios where the total payout amount is more than what the prize pool is. And we'll go over this and what happens this in a second. So when equilibrium is reached, everyone is supposed to get paid out. This is where they make the claim guaranteed payouts. There are guaranteed payouts. And again, we don't know yet because we don't have enough information on this company yet, or firm if you would like to call it, but it's not a firm. So if we understand what equilibrium is and how it's reached, how the state of equilibrium is reached, then we need to really understand what opting out early means. So opting out early just basically means taking your money before equilibrium is reached. So let's say you made a profit of $2,000. Oh shit, I almost did 20,000. No, let's say you made a profit of $2,000. And you say, you know what, I'm good, I wanna opt out early, which means you don't wanna wait until equilibrium is reached, right? So what happens is then, okay, cool, you are supposed to get paid out this $2,000 or at least 90% of it, which would equal in this case, 1,800. And you are supposed to get paid out this immediately, guaranteed payout. Now the question here is, does this $2,000, right? When you get paid out, does this decrease immediately or is it lagging? Because here's the issue. Imagine all of these traders reached a $40,000 in a day and you requested your payout maybe like 2 to 3 minutes early. Now I know it's only $2,000, right? But you still took a good chunk out of this 40,000. To be exact, you took 5% out of it. So what happens? Because if that's the case, they don't have $40,000 to pay out. They really only have $38,000 to pay out, right? And there is traders who amass a total of 40,000 that needs to be paid out. So like, what happens here? And this is one of my biggest concerns. When I was researching the firm, I was like, what's going on? When I was looking through the docs, this was one of the like questions that I just couldn't really understand. What happens in this case? So we understand these terms. Let's go over the ideal, right, path, right? So once you reach the fork in the road, you can choose to opt out early. You can request your payout and you get that 90%. Now, if equilibrium is reached, right, let's say you decide to stay in, which means you're not opting out early. You decide to stay in and ride it to equilibrium, and you decide to keep trading. You are now faced with a risk. The risk of potentially blowing all of the profits that you made. Instead of just opting out early and taking your profits, you can reach that $2,000 trailing drawdown. And keep in mind, it's a $2,000 trailing drawdown. Let's say you have one bad day where you go on tilt, right? Like you go on evil tilt and you just blow all your profits. Well, then you just kind of, I don't know, did something extremely dumb in my opinion. But it happens to all of us. And you just kind of lost like $2,000 that was guaranteed for you because you decided to stay in and wait till equilibrium. Now, what reason would you have for waiting in equilibrium? Well, the reason why is because you can get more choices of what to do with your profit. So if your balance is below $2,000, right, the only option you get is getting paid out 90% of it, right? It's the same as opting out early, but you just waited longer. But if your balance is above $4,000 or $2,000, you essentially can have the option to get it transferred to a live funded account, which then you can, choose to keep the $2,000 in a live funded account and kind of treat it as a personal or just withdraw the full 2,000. Now my battery is about to die, so we're gonna try and speed run this a little bit. All right, so now let's kind of go over the model. This is not a prop firm, what I've realized. After a few hours researching, it's not a prop firm, it's a tournament model. 10 traders pay an entry fee, a prize pool is then created, they keep their $200 cut or their 20% cut. 800 goes into the prize pool, everyone takes trades, the top performers win, the maximum payout, blah, blah, blah. The top performers take the prize pool and the bottom performers get whatever they can get. This brings a new error. The error is that it will open you up to FOMO because you're going to be worried about what other traders' results are doing and how they're getting to the prize pool. They're eating up all those profits and you might not even have a chance to take any profits from it. So opens to then you'll start over trading and it's not the best for your mental. I can already tell that. So let's talk about what I'm afraid of.
All right, so we're back. Whew. That was a really weird call.
Anyway, all right, so let's talk about what I'm afraid about, okay? Glasses off, because I got to get serious here. I'm a fucking idiot. All right, so here's what I'm afraid of. And it kind of has to go with like what happens if like there's more total payouts that are supposed to be paid than there is money in the prize pool. And this is kind of what everybody is worried about when it comes to like just trading props as a whole. But let's say, for example, prize pool starts at 40,000 and there's 200 traders in, right? And they all paid at $200. And during the period, traders are trading, they're, making their profits and whatnot. And then 20 traders out of nowhere just say, yeah, I'm out, right? They take a $2,000 payout and they opt out early. So $2,000 opt-outs. Hey, editing Omar here. I'm an idiot. I meant to say 1,000. I meant to use 1,000 because 20 or 2,000 times 20 traders would be 40,000. You fucking idiot. I'm sorry. So in this example, imagine just the 2,000 is 1,000. And humor me here, okay? Thank you. Go back to the video. From payouts, right? So what happens, right? These early opt-outs are amounting for 20,000 gone in payouts, right? Now the remaining pool should be 20,000. If 20,000 have taken out profits, they opted out early and they got paid as soon as they opted out, that would mean that a $40,000 prize pool will only have $20,000 left in it. But there's still 180 traders actively remaining. And what happens if out of that remaining 180 traders, there's $35,000 in sim profits? We have a crisis here. There's not enough money to be paid out. This is where I'm kind of a little bit, shaky, right? Because can you say equilibrium was hit? Because in order for it to, I don't know, let's say, for example, be equilibrium, right? The total amount paid out would have to be 40,000. So I guess you can make a case that the 20 traders that opted out early, their profits were already accounted for, and the 30 or the 180 traders that are still in, their profits is already accounted for. So this would kind of be a little bit confusing because in that case, the total maximum payout would be 55,000, which means that equilibrium was supposed to be stopped a lot sooner before the 20 traders can opt out early. But this can be gamified. There can be bugs, there can be errors to the point where like the maximum amount that's supposed to be paid out can be bigger than the pool. What happens? So yesterday I was just kind of like pacing back and forth and I was kind of like looking at it. And there was only like two realistic scenarios that I could think of. They pay for the deficit from their revenue and all traders receive their full 90% split. But the second one was the proportional distribution, which is basically, in their words, it's called a pro-rate share. And this is actually what happens from their website. A pro-rate share is basically whatever is left, it kind of gets calculated, divided. Each person gets a profit rate share, and it's kind of like partial payouts. And for example, out of that, if we use that same example and we were owed 35,000 that were owed, but we only had 20,000 in the pool, then each trader would get about 57 cents a payout per dollar of profit, which means that if you were up 4,500, you would only get paid out $2,500.56 or 2,500 essentially. This is where like negative reviews can come into play with this. If this doesn't get like accounted for, if this scenario doesn't get like eased, like the worry or the concerns of this scenario happen, if the probability doesn't get like lowered or it doesn't get solved, then like this can be a very, very bad thing for this model and for this firm in general. But as the company grows, of course, they'll be able to do option A a lot more to the point where they don't have to do pro-rate shares. And that's just kind of me using logic because they'll have like more, profits and, capital and stuff like that to do it. But this was like one of the biggest things that I was afraid of. And I was like kind of looking at it and I was like, all right. So with that being said, right, it doesn't help on top of that, like Tenacity guarantees payouts. So you're going to get a payout. They don't guarantee 100% split. I don't think they guarantee 90% split either. They just guarantee a payout now on their page. The FAQ is really silent on like pool exhaustion protocols, which is not helpful at all because this is the #1 concern in the unanswered question that I have. And then like, what if, here's another thing, right? Here's the catch. If you decide to stay in and wait till equilibrium, which the only reason you would do that is if you want your $2,000 or if you have more than $2,000, right? So let's say you have 2,000 plus and you want the full 100% split. So like if you want the full 100% split, then yeah, okay, cool. You might want to stay until equilibrium. But let's say you stay in and you decide to continue trading, you have a greater chance of blowing what you made. And if you blow what you made, you hit the trailing drawdown, you just lost, or you don't get anything from any of your average. Another thing that I have in mind is like, is this possible? Like, is this loop possible, right? So we know that they need a certain amount for prize pools. They need 40,000 in order for competition to start. And entry funds are kind of given. But like, what if it never reaches the 40,000 prize pool, right? Like, what if there's not enough traders to make this prize pool? Are we gonna get refund our entry fees after a certain amount of days, right? Is like, is it gonna be a smaller prize pool instead? And if it's a smaller prize pool, like, of course there's gonna be smaller payouts, and then smaller payouts just gonna lead to churn, right? And then this loop happens until the company just dies. These are a lot of concerns that I have. So it's time to get into like my overall consensus. I don't know if I said that word properly. I was trying to be really smart and use a big word that I knew the definition for, but just didn't know how to say. So we're gonna replace it with my summary. Here's what I'm doing when it comes to tenacity. I'm staying away from it. As you know, I mainly trade Apex. And the reason why I trade Apex is because the evaluation cost is so cheap and my pass rate is not high enough to justify looking for cheaper all-in costs yet. So I trade Apex. No affiliation with Apex either yet. However, I'll be staying away from Tenacity Trading though. I am not going to be taking any chances with it. It's so young. The company just came out a year ago. It's already proven to have problems, and the reviews on Trustpilot doesn't look the best yet. And of course, it's because it's young. It's only 20, reviews on it, and the page doesn't do a good enough job of explaining everything fully. So I'll be kind of staying away from it for now. Now, if you're a beginner trader, do I think you should be trading Tenacity Trading just because your ability to really kind of grab payouts from the market? Well, if you're a beginner trader, no. Because you not only now have to worry about going up against traders who are much better than you, but you also have to pay attention to how that's going to play an effect on you. For example, like I kind of mentioned, there's going to be traders who are killing it. One trader can come in with 5 accounts and get an $8,000 payout or make $8,000 in a day and take the entire prize pool before you even had a chance to take a trade. What happens to your $200 entry fund? Where it's just gone. So once that pops in your head, you're like, holy shit, I gotta find trades, I gotta make money. And you start rushing. You start FOMOing into bad things. You start seeing a setup that looks like it's taking off without you. And instead of being patient and waiting for the next best setup, you're trying to catch this move. FOMO, revenge trading, when you lose, over trading to try and compensate to make profits. It's a lot of bad things that can happen if you're a beginner trader, and I would advise kind of stay away from it. But if you're a little bit of a pro trader, see how you can game the model. I'm pretty sure you can find a way to game the model. Me personally, I'm just gonna stay away from it. Again, I don't mean to be such a negative Nancy, especially when it comes to like a young company like this. I just have a lot of concerns that if it's addressed properly, I will actually kind of be interested in them as a whole. With that being said, I hope you guys gained some type of value out of this video, and maybe a little bit of that confusion that I was facing yesterday have been relieved for you. If it has, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe. My goal is to try and grow this YouTube channel to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And while I'm doing that, I'm documenting my journey on getting $73,000 in payouts by the end of the year. If you made it to this part of the video, I want to give you a special thanks for having an amazing attention span. I love you, okay? Please subscribe while you're at it too, okay? You know my motto, or if you don't know my motto, be a problem solver. See you guys next time. Until the last time.